I took 14 days away from social media, and today I'm sharing all the learnings that came up while I was away. Heya, I'm Amanda, and welcome to the Best Damn Coach podcast, where I will teach you how to coach yourself, how to coach your clients, and how to run your coaching business. The number one goal of this show, though, is to help you be the best damn coach you can be so your clients go out and tell the world about you. So, let's do the damn thing. Welcome to the BDC podcast. Before we dive in, we've created a new free resource for you. And here's why. One of the struggles I hear from so many beginning coaches or even seasoned coaches is they struggle with the sales conversation. So maybe you have your first sales call coming up, or you have this first discovery call booked, and you just don't know how to walk this prospective client through the sales process so it doesn't feel salesy for you. Or maybe you're a seasoned coach and sales just aren't your thing. You don't want to feel salesy. You avoid it. It doesn't feel good for you. I have created a free resource for you. It's literally the sales script that I have used to close millions of dollars of sales in my business. And I teach it in such a way that it doesn't feel salesy. And that's because sales should always come from a place of service. So if you want access to this free download, head on over to amanda-walker.com/sales and you can grab it now. Once you grab it, I'm going to walk you through step by step the entire sales process to help you go from feeling sleazy in sales to feeling totally confident. Welcome to the BDC podcast. I'm so excited you're here. And today I am sharing my learnings after I took a break from social media for 14 days. And I want to talk about what prompted this very impromptu separation, what came from it, and how it's kind of shifting my attention when it comes to my own energy and my business moving forward. So here is the short. Well, actually it's the long, but I was on social media and was just noticing a really sudden change in engagement and viewership with all the content I was creating. And it hit me hard when one day I put out a Instagram reel that had only 5 views. Well, 5 views is still 5 views. The problem for me is that my reels were having, somewhere between 3,000 to 4,000 viewership months ago. And I know obviously that algorithms change and shift, and there's constantly algorithm changes happening, and we're at the mercy of those algorithm shifts when we choose to use social media. Point being is this was a dramatic difference. And I was feeling frustrated by that. Spent a lot of time on the Google trying to figure out what was happening. You may not know this, but Instagram and Facebook makes it extremely hard to contact support, to get any support. Couldn't even find a place to submit an email or a question or ask for help. The one place was completely blank. And I know that that's for reason that they make it challenging to make connection with them. And I stumbled across, which I've heard of before, this notion of shadow banning. I really have no confirmation that this is what happened to me. It's sheer speculation. But I guess last year they did a big shadow ban on a lot of hashtags that they deemed inappropriate, specifically around sex, sexual health, etc., etc. I can only think that around when they did that is when I started to notice some decline in my viewership or my engagement or my exposure. And I commonly use the hashtag, at this point, feel amazing naked or totally naked or things like that and variations of it because it went alongside with the brand. Well, this is all speculation and none of it truly matters. The aha moment I had is that I was way too freaking invested in the energy of social media. And if I wanted to behave at a higher level of my business, it would require me to think differently. Can't solve a problem with the same mind that created it. So I needed to take a freaking step away from social media. Truthfully, I'm pretty damn consistent for years. I post typically 5 or more times a week. And I haven't missed a beat, truthfully. Even when I'm traveling, my content's typically preloaded. I don't use a scheduling tool because I like to be me and be authentic inside the platform. And so all of those things were very frustrating to me. And I decided we're taking a freaking break. I am pausing, impromptu, unsolicited, and I need to clear my energy and focus on other things. I was really making it mean so much about the content I was producing, myself as a coach, myself as a business owner. Like, what am I doing wrong? Of course, that led me into the comparison trap of other people's success and what's going on. And I really have no specific answer. And also, I don't know that at this point, I have any desire to rely on an agency to help me curate my content because I want it to be me. And so I just decided I'm stepping away and I'm asking myself this question. What is really the ROI, the return on investment of using social media? Can you run a business without social media and be profitable? I actually know you can do this firsthand. I have several great friends that blog. They are in a completely different space and they do not use social media for business. So I have plenty of examples of this as possible. I needed for myself to really question, like we've said before, what is common is not normal necessarily or right for us. So how do I actually know the fruits of my labor on social media and where they're going? And so I committed myself to looking at those few things. So I want to share the learnings that I had personally from this. One is, this kind of blew my mind actually, is that the urge to check social media was way more intense than I expected. I feel like I already wrapped myself up in pretty great boundaries. I don't hop on the app a lot, which it may actually be what's also impacting me. I'm not as social as they would like you to be on social media, but the urge was really there. It was like I'd hop in the phone and be a passenger in the car when Justin was driving and I'd be like, oh, I should scroll. Or I'd be sitting down. I'd be like, oh, yeah, I want to check to see what's happening. Or there was just so many more moments where the urge to engage with social media came up and it felt like a very conditioned, chain, an anchor, as we talk about in coaching, an anchor to go do the thing. So I started actually charting it. I teach this to a lot of my clients that have urges because urges are feelings and feelings come from thoughts and those create actions. And so I started to create basically I took out a note card and every time I was having the urge, I was tracking it and just taking notice of it. And then the first day I had over 30 urges. I was like, whoa, this is way more than I intended. And so I was actually having to do just a lot of self-coaching around deconditioning the urge and asking myself, why was I having the urge? What was I hoping to gain from being on there? What was I hoping to learn? Because I did not like the feeling that I was so invested in it. So that was one giant, giant aha moment for me. And so this other question of what's the ROI was really my focus. So if you're not familiar, Google Analytics is a place where you can go and basically pull statistics from your webpage visitors. You can look at the website as a whole, and then you can look at specific visits from various sources. So you can look at your social networks, including all of the places that I'm at, and you can see how many people at what percentages are coming from those social platforms. So if you look at social media as 100% pie, you could say, 40% from Facebook, 30% from Instagram. You could even go deeper to see how many are coming from Instagram stories, right? In the Instagram app itself. So I said, I am just going to look over the last year to really see what are the statistics. And I'm not going to go through all the statistics here, but there were some wild learnings for me. When I looked at Google Analytics in and of themselves, what I saw was that the Instagram app, which was the app giving me the greatest energetic drain, was not the place that in fact I was garnishing the greatest amount of viewership. While we as a whole every month download our KPIs and metrics, I actually don't spend a whole lot of time looking at social media. I just look at them from a high level. And so this was really important for me to see that, okay, I'm spending all this time on this particular app and there's this whole world out here. Facebook was actually the place where a lot of my content was coming from. You can also distill this down to when you're having paid ads versus not, which is a really important factor because when you start to pay ads, then it totally changes your social referrals because most of them are coming from your paid ad. So this was really interesting. When I broke Instagram further down, what I realized is that more people were coming to my website from my stories than from my actual posts. Interesting, right? From posts, from the link, basically. So when you come from posts, you can check the link. You can come from the profile link and also Instagram stories. So that didn't really surprise me because for all of us, the people who most interact and enjoy your content are the ones who meet you in your stories, right? Because they're like, oh, I want to see what's going on behind the scenes. And they have to actively go search out. So if they're actively searching out your stories, that means they're more of a warm lead, which means they were more likely to interact with your content at some high level, none of which surprised me. And so then I said, you know what? I'm going to scour the last 100 clients and get even more granular on where did they come from. And here's the learnings. The number one place they came from was referrals. Still to this day, at the level for which we, serve clients, referrals are still the number one lead source. And those referrals could mean like they see a client out there doing amazing things. They're like, hey, where did you go? Where did you find this coaching, right? This is why the whole BDC method is surrounded in this, bridging the gap between how you serve your clients and them going out and, sharing about you, becoming your billboard advertisement. And also sometimes they don't have to do this directly. They can just by their sheer action become the place where people are asking, wait a second, how'd you get these results, right? And so that is such a great reminder of why we do this work, why I teach coaches to do the same, and why we put service above all other things that matter inside of our business. And honestly, I hope to continue to do this. And I think of it from, again, other businesses, but our ability to build trust and rapport is really important. So if somebody says, Amanda's great, go join her program, it changed my life, that takes more weight than a random person, that we discover and know nothing about. If you think about Amazon, for example, when you're buying something on Amazon, what's the first thing we often do? We go right to the reviews and we see, like, what are they saying? Are people saying yes? Are people saying no? Because we trust their opinion from an outsider and we're more inclined to purchase. Coaching is no different. And we want to make sure that we have people out there that are saying how amazing it was to work with us, not in a forceful way, but in an organic and authentic way. And we want to make sure we're also repositioning those testimonials in places that people can find them and see them to add credibility and legitimacy to the work that we are doing. The other place that my clients came from was my podcast. And the podcast continues to be a place that people listen, right? And when you listen, you can hear my voice. You can immediately decide if I'm for you or if I'm not. You can decide if I'm offering enough value for you to continue to keep showing up. You get a sense of the authenticity because trust me, I know you guys have done this. You've listened to podcasts where you tune in and it feels like the librarian from elementary school and you're disconnected and they're not necessarily speaking in your tone and tonality that feels congruent for you. You don't keep listening, right? And part of that, the reason I podcast is because I don't feel like in these short episodes I can hide behind smoke and mirrors and a facade. It just has to be me showing up kind of in a messy way. And I think that gives people an opportunity to connect and then they hear the value of message and they stick along. And eventually when the timing is right, perhaps, and they're in the place where they're ready, they will say, okay, I'm ready. Let's do this. I want to take this journey deeper with you. And that rapport and trust has been built over time. So I share this because I think it's critical for us to provide that value. It needs to be beyond social media. People might find me on social media and then hear the podcast, sure. But beyond social media, what is your strategy? What is your funnel? I recorded an episode about this recently. If social media is your only strategy, you're in a place of lack of sustainability. So to have a constant content generation strategy that's out social media is a critical way people can find you. Podcasting, blogging, even YouTube shorts or anything like that. So even though YouTube isn't necessarily, it's still earned media, you don't own it. There's still a little bit of gray in that area. But my point being is, are you putting out consistent content beyond social media where people can engage with you and begin to bridge that gap and build that know, like, and trust factor with you? And so my learnings from this couple weeks away were also, I liked it. I liked it a lot. I liked not being on social as much. And that's not necessarily stories. Stories are kind of a fun place to interact. But what I realized is that, the exhaustion from content creation is true, which one of the reasons I've decided to just focus down and double down on coaching, online business owners and coaches is because now I'm just focused on you, only one avatar. And already that has lifted a huge, weight off my shoulders as far as content creation. And that feels beautiful. The learning is make decisions from business again, built on data instead of emotion. Oh, they're not engaging. Oh, my content sucks. Oh, it's crickets. When you tell yourself those stories over and over, it keeps you from showing up. And it isn't true. We have to rely on metrics. I also shared on the episode about social media that if I looked at some of the clients that have been my greatest source of retention, some of my favorite clients that keep renewing with me year after year for coaching have never once liked or engaged with any of my social media. So what does that mean? That people are finding me and engaging from afar. They may have found me from those referral sources or podcast sources, yes, but they may also be a voyeur of the content and they don't feel that they want to engage. They're just taking it all in. And then they're like, yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to talk to you. I'm ready to go deeper. And so from our perspective as service providers and in this world of social media, I think there is a balance. I think there is some questions that we need to ask ourselves. That's why I learned from mentors that are far, far ahead running, multi 7 to 8 figure businesses. They're not necessarily in the platforms, right? They may be creating content or they've solidified a team at that point to build out. There are some that are that level that are absolutely engaging in social. So there's no right way, by the way. But I think it's about assessing your own energy and finding out what feels right for you and creating systems. So I came back and immediately I reached out to my OBM and said, all right, I'm going to drill down on the systems a little bit more on how I want to build out social media, how I want to create a flow, how much content I want to produce. Because what I'm seeing is the energy of creating content on social media is not necessarily returning. It's not dollar for dollar. It's not hour for hour. And I think there's other areas like focusing on visibility and partnerships and building a network that are far more important. And I have to be careful myself to not fall into that trap that I think that so many people can fall into. I like making reels. It's kind of fun and it may not have the greatest ROI for me. And so I hope that my 14 days away can offer you something. The world did not stop. Business kept coming. Things kept happening. People kept listening to my podcast. People kept doing things. When I got back on, I had tons of DMs to reply to and it was all good. I just said, hey, I've been off. So sorry for the reply. They're like, good for you. So don't tell yourself the story that the world is going to stop and business is going to change because you take a break. You need the break. It's like my daughter. The month of June, I told her, you need to take a break from soccer. You're not allowed to play soccer. You can go play basketball. You can go play all these other sports. Yes, you have to stay active and no soccer. She gave me like a little fit about it at first. I said, just trust me. And then a couple weeks ago, I'm recording this in July as we prepare for September. She said, Mom, I so miss touching the ball. I so miss playing soccer. Thank you so much. And I think this is a message for all of us in all aspects of business is we have to take space and just let it be. We have to take space away from business as a whole. We have to take space away from our kids. We have to take space away from our partners. We have to take space away from social media to love and appreciate it and shift the perspective of gratitude that we do have around it. And when we do that, we can look more clearly at what it is for ourselves that are actually like inspiring us and firing us up and create, systems. So with that, I'm back on social media with a different perspective. It's felt really fantastic, interacting more intentionally and paying more attention to what's engaged with and what isn't. Just really trying to tune into more authenticity, which I felt like I was doing a great job with, but now I'm even more so focusing on quality over quantity and showing up in a different way and muting some accounts that I thought weren't really a trigger for me, but are following new inspiration, unfollowing people that are no longer. And so I think there's like a great lesson of like why this practice should be regular for all of us, even if you don't run an online business, why we need to detach ourselves from social to get those learnings and take a step away and get perspective, and how critical it is to honestly running the marathon instead of the sprint inside social. So I hope that this inspires you to maybe take a little break. If you have questions, if there's areas that I can support you, and truthfully, if you don't have a strategy outside of social, then I really want to just say that this is a red flag for me, for you, for the longevity of your business. This is something that we definitely should work on over time so that if these social media platforms change at the drop of a hat, you are not impacted over time. And if you've taken a social media break, a little hiatus, tell me what were your learnings. I love to hear from all of you. You can tune in with me all week where I'm talking about this on the podcast on social media. In fact, Instagram is probably still my favorite place to engage, while I am now on spending energy in LinkedIn and learning so much about that, and also learning how to take the content that I'm already curating and push it out to different platforms too. So cheers to growth in all aspects and to learning about, truthfully, what has the greatest ROI, return on investment, inside each of our own businesses. Every week, I put my heart and soul into this podcast to bring you value and to help you grow as a person and as a coach. And one of the ways, very simple ways you can return that favor is by leaving us a review. So if you haven't left us a review, head on over to Apple or Spotify, leave us a review, let us know how we're doing, let us know what content you love and which content pieces are really speaking to you now.